What's up, guys? It is Sam here, and I have an amazing video for you today. I just finished up the power rankings. For those of you who do not know, the power rankings are made up of 8 factors. Yes, we added one more, and they're based on the Google search volume, the YouTube search volume, their website ranking in the United States, their social following on Twitter, on Facebook, on YouTube, and their donations, as well as the awareness of the people who use their hashtags on different platforms. So we took all that together and stack ranked them, and then we took an average to see who was number one, and that's what we're going to get into today. Now, with that being said, if this is your first time here, what's good? My name is Sam, and for those of you that are returning, it's good to freaking see you. Let's get right into it. So, the power rankings, by the way, any of the semantics of the nuanced details that I don't get into in this video, you can go back to the channel and you can check out those videos where I talk about how I actually do all the calculations for each one of these. But I'm just going to do a quick macro view here where we've got the Google search volume. This is just based upon searches, right? People go to Google, the #1 site on the planet, and they search on Google for the candidates' names. So we stack rank them 3 different time periods. We do the same thing on YouTube, which is the second largest site on the planet. Then to get a better understanding of the psychology, right? Because that's people that are searching for them, but a much, much more specific type of interest would be their website, because people are actually going to their website to get more information on the person, to learn more about this person, to give them money, whatever it might be. So we stack rank their website based on a couple of engagement factors and on the website's ranking out of all the other websites in the US relative to the other candidates to see who is #1. Then we look at their social. So we start with Facebook and we rank their social based on growth rates and the total number of followers and likes. And then on Twitter, we do something similar, but it's on the number of tweets, because we want to get a gauge of how much work people are putting in, because that is kind of a leading indicator to tell us what direction somebody's to be heading. If somebody's putting out, if you're tweeting 1,000 times a month and I'm doing 150 a month, I don't know. I think you could see who would eventually get more attention. You're just talking more than I am. Like, it's just common fucking sense. So that's one of the factors on there. YouTube channel. This one actually just came out the other day, and this is based upon the candidate's YouTube channel. I think that somebody who gets into politics or something like this, that wants to have a tremendous amount of impact on a cause or something, if they don't have a YouTube channel like Amy Klobuchar, they are missing out on a fuckload of attention that they could be garnering to get their message out. And Amy doesn't even have a YouTube channel, but we based the YouTube channel based on the views and the subscribers, as well as the growth rates on those factors. The last 2 factors that we have here are the donations. So one of the big factors for the donations is the percentage of small donors, that small donors defined in our book here, of $200 or less. And the reason we use $200 is because something like 60 or 80% of the United States population could not take a $1,000 hit. If something were to happen in their life and an emergency happened and they had to have $1,000 to do something, most people in America would end up having to put it on a credit card or borrow the money from somebody. So $200 from a lot of the population would be substantial. So for somebody to donate $200 or less, and it could be $6, I don't know, but for people to just donate money when they're in that state of mind where they don't even have enough money to cover themselves in a situation where there's an emergency, that's why that's one of the factors there, and as well as a couple other factors that we put into there. The last one, and this one we just added to try to get a better understanding of the scope in the, if you were to talk in statistics, there's a curosis. I apologize for slaughtering the name, and the skewedness of it, and you can check the different the shapes of the distribution of the data, I guess you could call that. And we actually looked at the awareness. So we used 3 different platforms. We used we used the YouTube views, hashtags, and Instagram. This is the only time Instagram is in here because the API to pull the data is not working properly or something, because I'm unable to get the data last time I checked. I will check again and see if they've updated that. YouTube views. So what we do is we go to YouTube and we search for each candidate's name. And then we filter based upon videos that had come out within the last 24 hours that come up. And then I just total up the views of those videos. And we stack rank all the candidates. We do hashtag usage over a period of time. So we look at Twitter, look at the latest tweets, the people who are tweeting about it over a certain period of time, and we count them up, and then we stack rank them. And then we do the same thing on Instagram. However, Instagram is a little bit different in the analytics or the data that we can see. So on Instagram, we actually use the total number of hashtags as well as the total number, of comments on the top 9 posts. So on Instagram, when you search for a candidate's hashtag, it comes up with the hashtag, it tells you how many, but then it also tells you the top 9 posts associated with that hashtag, and you get to see the number of comments on each one of those posts. So we just took all those for all 11 candidates, added them all up, and we stack ranked them. Who had the most, who had the least. And I put all of those 8 different factors together into one place, and this is what we've got. So the top 5 candidates, I'm not sure why I zoomed in so far like that, but the top 5 candidates we have for our power ranking on 11/27 is Bernie Sanders. Elizabeth Warren comes in at number 2. Look at that. Andrew Yang, number 3. So this is the national power rankings. Andrew Yang is number 3. What I'm going to do is actually compare this to the Real Clear Politics data to show you what's going on, and we'll touch on what Real Clear Politics is in a minute. I've also tried to put together a couple different charts here to get into, and I'd love to hear your thoughts down below in the comments. If you use the hashtag Stolt in your comments, at the end of this video, I have a segment where we actually get into the comment section and we go through and we answer and we talk about some of the comments, because when people use the hashtag Stolt, they tend to put a little bit more thought and good valuable information into the comment section. I'd like to highlight some of that stuff. So with that being said, let's get into the actual numbers here, and then we have Pete and Joe rounding out the top 5 here. But let's take a look at the actual numbers here. So before we jump over to the actual ranking, let's just show you what I did for the scoring. We have the score, so we just take each individual factor's score, right? So on Google, we have Pete ranked 7. On YouTube, he ranked 6th. On his website, he ranked 4th. On Facebook, he ranked 1st, etc. And we do that across all 8 factors. And then we take an average. And that is what becomes this. That's the score. Now, who had the lowest score is the winner. So that's where we get Bernie from. But let's take a look at the macro view before we dive into the actual individual rankings here. But we see something that probably, if you're following this channel, there's a tendency that I've made a lot of videos about Andrew Yang, but look at this. Andrew Yang has been losing ground for about 2 months straight. He was ranked number 1 in our power rankings for the first 2 versions that it came out, and he's been losing ground. At the beginning of November, he was ranked 2nd, and now he's ranked 3rd, so something's going on over there. I think that there was a lot of additional attention for other people and a lot of other stuff happening with that stuff with Hillary and Gabbard and Biden and his son and stuff with Trump. So I think that may have pulled some of that attention. But as some of that stuff abates, I'm super curious to see, as we go back through the next round of these factors, to see if Andrew Yang can move up. Because if you see here, he's ranked on Google pretty well. He lost a little bit of ground. On YouTube, he's been dominating. His website's been dominating. He lost ground on Facebook, dominating Twitter, pretty much dominating YouTube. His awareness in terms of the other people using his information that we just talked about was 5th out of all the candidates. And then the donations. This is actually a surprise factor. Here's some conjecture Tuesday, even though it's not Tuesday, but I have a feeling, based upon how much better his website's doing than everybody else's, that he is going to announce some killer fucking donation numbers. I just have this sense, based upon what I'm seeing here, he's getting a lot of attention. The development and ramp up of a more thoughtful and considerate social strategy I see happening with him relative to the other candidates. And I don't think that the other candidates appreciate how tremendously valuable the internet is as a tool to get your message out, because that's going to translate to votes. I mean, you just look at the data, but we don't need to get into that in this video. So I think that that's going to be some very, very interesting numbers that he's going to put out when he does do his donations. I tried to put together a little chart here. I looked at a shitload of different charts, but it's struggling with a way to present it so you're not just looking at numbers. But basically what you're doing, this is the first ranking in blue. The second is from September 15th. The third is from October 21st. And the fifth is from uh, the 11th. Oh wait, this is every ranking has their own date. So you can see this is Twitter. So there's other dates that I gather the data from Twitter. And if you see something like this, right up and to the right, this is getting worse. So this is Kamala Harris. She's been getting worse by like a decent, she's been losing ground really quick. She gained some here. Somebody like this has just been very steady. This is Amy Klobuchar, which, and who is this? Bernie Sanders, probably, on the Twitter ranking. I don't know why their names are not popping up here. Yes, he moved up on the Twitter ranking. We see Joe Biden. Joe Biden's, I don't know, it'll be interesting to see how Joe Biden does. I feel like he's been losing ground. But these charts are pretty fucking boring. You guys let me know what you think. This is kind of interesting. Their website, who is this person here? This is, let's see, website number 2. This is Julian Castro. Brother, you are dropping the ball, son. Look at this. He was 7th when we started. Went to 8th, went to 9th. Now he's at 11th. His website is ranked 11th. So these are the kind of things, like if you have something, let me just show you real quick. If you have, if you're a fucking nerd and don't have anything better to do with your time, when you're looking at data, if you see something like this, right, where it's just straight across, you can't really tell a trend. If you see something like this, where you have some type of volatility, you can't really tell a trend. Until you get more data. Something like what we have here with Julian Castro, we see a clear trend of him losing ground over time. I wouldn't be surprised if he calls it in soon if we don't see some drastic increase in like what's going on with his camp. Take a quick gander at this. We see Pete on Google losing, and then now he's starting to level out. So we have noticed that Pete started to gain ground in a lot of areas. So I wonder if this is a turning point for him on Google, where in the next day or two, if you want to subscribe, and you'll see that video when it comes out, press that bell notification. But the Pete, I wonder if he'll move in on from 7th to 6th, because on the social we do see him growing. So it'd be interesting to see how that plays out in the macro view when we look at actual Google searches. Andrew Yang has lost a little bit of ground. Sanders has just fucking dominated everybody. It looks like Biden's losing ground. The person who's been gaining a lot are the 2 women here. Well, 2 of the women who are here. Elizabeth Warren, she's been increasing in popularity until she's like kind of flattened out here. Tulsi Gabbard has also, she wasn't even in the first part of these rankings because she wasn't in the September debate. So we see that she was ranked 6th and then 3rd. Anyways, let's just jump into the Real Clear Politics. So what is Real Clear Politics? But first, so Real Clear Politics aggregates the polling data. So I pull up their website right here, and we can see we're on the national one over here. This is their national polling data, and then they put it into a nice little graph here. But these over here, QuinPac is the like one of the people who did a survey or a poll or something, and they give you, a lot of the times you have to kind of poke around for it a bunch, but what you can do is you can come over here and you can actually see the data that they have. Sometimes here, let's see if we can find it real quick while we're actually doing this live. We might be able to find their N, or sample size. In statistics, the sample size is generally, the nomenclature is N. And I'm not sure. I'm not going to take the time to read through this, but the what tends to happen is you get some type of poll where the one here from The Economist has like 1,500 people, and then the news reports on this. So what ends up happening is we have 1,500 people that either get like a phone call, or I'm not sure how this polling is done. Maybe there's like a they actually send out snail mail. I don't know. Maybe it's an email. Maybe it's online. Either way, if you're asking people questions, you are going to get a different answer than if you're watching people and what they do. Think about if your boss is over your shoulder while you're working versus when your boss is not there. Your behavior is different. The same thing happens when you ask questions. I don't need to get into all the biases and all these other pieces of it. Basically, think about your boss behind you and how your behavior is versus when your boss is not there. That's what we're doing. So we have your boss is kind of standing over there and the behavior is one way. That means it's not accurate, right? Because he's standing over your fucking shoulder. Somebody's literally asking you a question. Hey, who are you going to vote for? Huh? Or we look at the behavior of what you're actually doing on the internet, and that's what we have here. So let's take a gander here between Real Clear Politics ranking and our ranking. And all I did was just take their ranking across the top here. They have theirs in a horizontal view. I just took their ranking across the top, and we put it in right next to ours to see what is going on. And there's a couple people that I just wanted to highlight here. So there's basically three people. And why I'm not highlighting Amy Klobuchar or Julian Castro, don't think that's super important. They are off on both of those people by 3 rankings. Yes, that's a lot, but they're not even in the realm of the conversation of what's gonna play out. So that's why I'm not talking about them. But let's start with at the bottom here, and Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi Gabbard, they're off by 4 spots. So she's ranked 6th nationally based upon the data I just showed you, millions of data points, versus theirs, where you have, I talked about the Economist survey, there's 1,500 people who took that survey. 1,500 versus millions of people. Yes, there's other surveys here, but I bet if I went in and looked at the sample size for each one of these, I bet every single one of them is less than 20,000. And you're trying to use a sample size of 20,000, and that's just that. I'm just being conservative. Like, I feel like 95% confident that all these are going to be less than 20,000. Like 95% that I put money up to it, right? So you have this, generally speaking, a sample size of like 1,000 or 2,000. That's the media reports on as representative of the collective of America. This is actually how we do things around here. Like, maybe in 2019 we should do something different, or at least have that conversation of there's potentially a better way to understand what the fuck Americans are thinking about than asking them questions. How about we watch what they're fucking doing, listen to like what they're fucking searching for online, where they're giving their attention. It's just, anyways. So they are off by 4 spots. She's actually getting talked about, and the American public is interested in Tulsi Gabbard. However, the media is just not. The media and the polling data, she's not showing up on. Kind of interesting. Another one, which this one's big, and this one I think is what really needs to talk to. Maybe we should talk about this one in a second. But let's go over to Andrew Yang. Andrew Yang, they have him at 6th, and he on our national poll, our national power ranking here, he's ranked 3rd. He has been losing ground. But there is a big discrepancy, 3 spots. So you can see that there's only like a handful of people who they're off by a lot. Some of them they seem like they're relatively accurate, right? Cory Booker, 8th versus 9th. Yeah, okay, cool. You know what I mean? But that's not even in the realm of like conversation. I mean, I don't think the vast majority of people actually think Cory Booker would get the nomination. I think he's probably doing it for other reasons. Maybe not. I don't know. No shade or anything if he's actually doing it. Kudos for him. Hopefully he can get some more fucking attention. But we do see Andrew Yang is losing attention, but they're still off by 3 spots. The last one here, this is where it gets kind of interesting. So let's look at the actual information here on Joe Biden. On Google, in this past ranking versus how he had been ranking number 2, just behind Bernie Sanders, and he dropped and he lost ground. And this is from like when that shit happened with his son and all the shady shit that he's doing. So he's lost ground. People have lost interest in him. Same thing on YouTube. On 10/21, he was ranked 2nd, and then on 11/12, about 3 weeks later, he lost 2 spots. This is people who are actually searching for him. They're like not searching for him as much anymore. Just what it is. His website has not been like a super awesome website to start with, but in the top half, and he's been bouncing back and forth between 5th and 6th. It will be interesting to see the data for this past debate to see how he's coming along. His Facebook, he looks to be pretty constant on Facebook. Twitter does look he's kind of maybe slightly potentially moved up a tiny little bit because he went from 6th to 8th down to 5th and 6th, maybe. His YouTube channel has been losing ground. I don't know. By the way, the awareness, we've only had 1 data point yet, so it's not super valuable to compare that to anything, in my opinion. And the donations are reported quarterly through the FEC, I believe it's called. So I don't have the data. It will be super interesting to see the data when it comes out at the end of the quarter. But we can see just like across the board that either Bernie Sanders is leveled out or he's losing ground. So when these next rankings come out in early December, and probably the Google one will come out tomorrow or something, it's going to be some very, very interesting data to see how this plays out. And I'd love to know your thoughts down below in the comments. If you use that hashtag Stolt, as I mentioned earlier, when I get into my YouTube analytics, what I can actually do is I can search for the hashtag Stolt out of all the comments that come up, and then we get to talk about it in the last segment of the show here. So this is from SLT. What is good? It would be interesting still to see social media sentiment, positive versus negative for each candidate. Also, social media subscriber growth a week after each debate. That would be super interesting. I did see some interesting data when I was just looking at that, where I saw a couple people have a big uptick, and I think that is a good video idea that I need to write down. Thank you for that. This is exactly why I want sub growth after debate. I apologize for interrupting. I'm going to do a video on that. Awesome idea. So now, when it comes to positive or negative, the only thing with that, it's so contextual, right? I can use the word fuck in a good way or a bad way. And the context of the situation matters. So I think I'm not sure basically how to systematize something like that without having a tremendous amount of errors that we'd just be like what fucking Real Clear Politics is doing, right? I want it to be more accurate, because people can use the word bad, right, but mean it in a good way. So like there's the context of the situation that is so important, and it's really, really hard to capture that in an accurate way. You can build up an intuition, like I will, I'm sure, build up some type of intuition to try to that's going to give me inside knowledge about the understanding about the sentiment, what's happening. But I'm not sure exactly how to build an algorithm or something or a model that's going to allow me to track that in the most accurate way, because I don't want to put it in there if it's not going to be accurate. I'm just really trying to understand what America thinks. By the way, if this is your first time here, I actually don't follow what any of the candidates say. I look at what America thinks, because if I understand what the collective of America thinks, then I know what's going to happen, right? Where I think that is going to be way more valuable than actually listening to the candidates from my standpoint. Like, you do fucking you, and if you like paying attention to them, that's awesome. That's what most people do. Most people are not fucking weird like me. So I want to understand what America thinks, because if I understand what America thinks, then I know the answer, right? Like, I know where we're going to be going. And I just don't think enough people have the data to at least think about it in a different perspective than what the media says. We all know, like, the fucking media is biased. So anyways, some of these other comments I went over. So we're just going to jump down really quick to this here and I didn't read it. I just was like, I haven't responded to this one. So let's talk to Ian, or Ian, I think it's Ian, Ferguson, and I apologize if your name is pronounced differently. She ran into Tulsi, the giant slayer. I'm assuming he's probably referencing Kamala or Hillary or something. Oh, yeah, this is in reference to a Kamala video, so this is probably what he's talking about. Just last night, Tulsi and Mayor Pete got into it at the debate. That will also probably show up in the subscriber growth numbers and the view numbers, because I bet those had an impact, and I didn't look at the details of that when I was getting the research ready. I was just really trying to focus on the research for the YouTube channel. You can go back to the YouTube channel and look at the YouTube rankings that just came out to see where people are. I don't want to bore you guys with reading through that whole comment, so let's just jump into Ian's next one, which is, I always love your stuff, Stolt. Keep this up. You're fast becoming the best pollster I'm aware of. Your data, with a couple of Tulsi-related exceptions, seemed spot on to me with what I see around the real sentiment. Not faked, astroturf, bought, trolls, and bots. I'm only afraid establishment types will find your stuff. I'm only afraid establishment types will find your stuff. I have advertised it here. And but guys, I'm literally just trying to understand what the American public thinks. And if you found value in this, if you agree with where I'm trying to go, like, I think we should probably have a conversation around the way that we have done things in the past. Maybe we continue to do it that way, or maybe, just maybe, there's a better way of doing things in 2019. We can collect data from other sources. We don't have to ask people the questions. The boss doesn't have to fucking be over your shoulder observing to try to understand your work behavior. We can just see where people go and understand them, right? It's called the fucking internet. And if you if you want to help out, share this video with somebody, share it on Twitter, share it on Facebook. It really does help out getting the message out about what we're actually trying to do here. And I really do appreciate it. If you use the hashtag of Stolt down below, I can get into the comments. And next time I will read through the comments and get a better paraphrase for them. I appreciate everybody who watches the video. Don't forget to subscribe and press that bell notification